One thing I've struggled with is, of late especially, is like low self-esteem. You know what? I'm gonna address it here today. That is anti-Africa. The thing that was missing most, I guess, in my early childhood was male presence. The question came up, and I kind of just recognized that, right? Like I struggle to answer that. Like, do I love me?
Welcome to a brand new season of Conversation with Haych. We have an incredible guest with us today, the social entrepreneur, the host with the most energy and style, former, how you say that? Talk to me.
Oh, Protonics Music.
No, Protonics Music radio host, the founder of Saint Radio London, and how you say this? Obviously, I've been missing it.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a techie one. Ecclesia,
I've got to make sure where the saints gather to party. The founder of the CHH Collective, the media production graduate, my fellow DMU alumni, the person seen as trying to bring Christian music and media scene together and having the scene excelling. A part-time rapper, part-time Vermont model, former Big Clash representative, a Kingdom mogul. I introduced to you Emmanuel Ade, also known as Manny Ade.
Yeah, thank you. What an intro flipping doctor. What the heck? Nah, the part-time rapper took that. I don't know whether to take that as a viral. I don't know. But you know what? We'll continue. That's a strike one.
No, you know what it is?
3 strikes.
Because you're not full-time in it.
Yeah.
We're waiting
I'm not full-time.
Could wait here, releasing that.
I got my paycheck.
Did you do Spotify thing?
Yeah. My laptop was 0.
But he can rap, Don't get it twisted. He's got bars. Sometimes he sees people rap and he says, I got a little something for this instrumental. And he puts it on Instagram, and then all of a sudden you're like, hold on, you can rap, man. What's going on?
It's fun and games.
For those who don't know who you are, man.
Yeah.
Who is Manny Ade? And then who is Emmanuel Adeyemo? Are the same person, or do they have different elements to them?
So no, Manny Ade isn't like an alter ego, man. It just makes it easy for people to recognize me and distinguish me. Because the Emmanuel, it's cool. But yeah, Manny Ade. It was my mom that encouraged me to go by Manny.
Really?
When I was, I think when I came back from Nigeria. I know we're gonna get into that, but and then the Ade is my last name, Adeyemo. So it's just a short form of both names.
Yeah.
I don't kind of go, Emmanuel's different from Manny Ade.
Yeah.
But who am I? So I like this question. I've had a little bit of time to kind of think through it. Still working it out, but I would like to start off with the precipice. I don't even know if that's the right lingo. I'm a child of God. I'm finding that that's the ultimate way to recognize myself and form my identity. So I'll lay that as the foundation. And then currently I'm a 24-year-old man, British born, grew up in Nigeria, obviously back here, and I'm a guy that loves people, and has been graced with the mission to help develop the kingdom in various ways, which I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. We want to get into that. What was? Let's go back though. What was early family life like? And what impact did that? What impact did it have on your upbringing, kind of growing up?
Yeah. So so I was born to a single mom. I always grew up with my mom, primarily, and I was born in Newham. Lived in Stratford for about 6 years. Yeah. And then left to Nigeria. Reason being, I know every time someone says, they went to Nigeria, you think they're in trouble. It's a tired narrative. You know what? I'm going to address it here today. That is anti-Africa. Do you know why? That is anti-Africa. Do you know why? Because why is it that every time someone says they go back, it's because it's a form of punishment.
Yeah.
Why can't it be a form of enjoyment?
It's true. It's true.
You feel me?
It's true.
I think I might start a march for that.
I hear you.
Nude Black Lives Matter. It's on the way. But yeah, my mom, for a few things. She didn't want me to grow up here primarily. Okay. Just due to, I guess she just saw the state of how kids grow up. Yeah. To some degree, the kind of lifestyles that it can lead people into, and I guess being a single mom, as well. She probably didn't want me to go a certain direction.
Yeah.
So before I could even
Get into that.
but also I think for her own purpose as well. I think she loves Nigeria. I know that's where her heart is. So I guess it was killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
And she took the leap of faith to go. And yeah, from 6 to 16, I grew up there, did primary school there, did secondary school. And it definitely had a big impact on who I am today. I think just culturally, there's obviously there's a cultural difference between here and there. It's a religious country. So even with that, very early on, like it's hard because even with my faith journey, if you were to ask me, oh, when did you get saved? It's quite difficult for me to pinpoint, just because.
Oh wow.
Ever since I was young and I guess quite conscious, I've always had an understanding to some degree of God and the reality of God.
Yeah.
Specifically because of my mum.
Yeah.
I think there was kind of like a transference of faith because specifically because she was doing things by herself, I could see, but with God, I could see that there was something more. Helping us weave through life and the complexities of life. So I kind of just grew into it, and that's a little bit.
Yeah. So you kind of talked about it a little bit. Obviously, you went over to Nigeria from year 1 to year 11.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because obviously it was boarding school that you had gone to.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? And then what ended up bringing you guys essentially back to the UK?
Yeah. So my boarding school experience was for 3 years actually. 2.5, 3 years. That was later years. So that was from halfway through year 9 to year 11.
Okay.
So yeah. In terms of that, it was dope. I think it's kind of hard to maybe contrast just because I didn't have any other experience. But I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Thoroughly, like I genuinely did. I don't know how different it would be from here, but I can assume, for example, I'd never, even sometimes on the topic of race, it's not one that I can fully bring certain experiences into. So, for example, over here, there might be a little bit of discrimination because you're a black kid.
Yeah.
And you have, and everyone else in your class is out of the 20, you're the one black kid in the mix, right? I didn't get that chance to understand that because everyone around me
looks like you.
It looks like me. So it's like certain things. Like it's interesting when we talk about what it's like to be black, because I think it's just such a it's not monolithic. Like there's not, everyone has an experience or the other, and obviously there's a lot of people that come from the diaspora and have probably similar experiences to me or varies, and it's like just growing up around black people, I never had that identity issue with maybe like color and race to some degree. I think the max you experience back home is more so colorism. But it's an interesting place, like even like the dynamic, specifically in Lagos, growing up in Lagos, when it comes to like faith as well, there's a mixture, like you're around Muslims and Christians, and we all exist. But yeah, I don't know. My time in secondary school, primary school was fun. Everyone has their peaks and troughs and their issues at school, but generally, I look back and I feel like I enjoyed a lot of my time.
So what ended up bringing you guys back to the UK?
To study further education.
Okay.
What's it called? Sixth form.
Yeah.
And then uni. The plan was always to come back.
Yeah.
And just so.
Do you feel like you always knew you were going to do kind of like media production? Was that always a thing from early on when you were in Nigeria, coming back to the UK? Was that always something you wanted to do, or did you want to do something else when you were younger?
I wanted to be a whole bunch of things. I'm sure at some point maybe I wanted to be an astronaut or something. But I think there was a time I wanted to be an architect. There was a time because I could draw.
Yeah.
I never really followed that. But I think leaving secondary school, year 11.
Yeah.
What was on my trajectory and pathway was like computer science.
Okay.
But by the time I got back here and got to sixth form, I remember when I was like 16, 17, that's when I hit like a crossroad, and I started to ask God, okay, like, what do I want to do? Like, I kind of felt that question spiral up. And one thing I really loved was music. Became a big music fan in my younger years, and I was kind of kid that if Drake was to drop, I would stay up till like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. just because of like time difference. I'll stay up till 5 to be one of the first to listen, and then or checking out all the blog posts and stuff like that. I was a big fan of Complex and all these platforms. So I knew I had a real strong passion for music. So I then started to ask her, okay, what do I do? And I just felt like, okay, let me do something music related. So I started to just query my thoughts and kind of go, okay, what can I do? Can I be I know I can be an artist, clearly, with my wrapped up stats currently at 0. I knew that wasn't the viable option because I just wasn't, I wasn't as musically inclined in that respect. But then I was like, okay, do I be a producer? I went to go get myself a MIDI keyboard. Kind of then, cool. I think just I was just like, no. I got the keyboard thinking I'm gonna just
press couple notes and then it's good.
I barely knew the notes anyway. So I said, gave that one up. And just various stuff. I just started to just juggle. Okay, producer. Okay, do I want to start a label? Okay, how do you start a label? You don't even have money. I mean, like 16, 17 at the time. But as the months went by, I think leading up to my 18th, I then just had I had the idea to start a blog, and that's where Protonic's music comes from. And I remember the name dropping in my spirit at the time, or I guess in my mind. Proton. So it's made up of 3 words: proton, sonic, and music.
Oh wow!
And breaking that down, the protons stood for positive energy, like protons, neutrons, electrons. Then the sonic represented like sound waves, sonic sounds, etc., etc., and then music being music. And then so I built the website, and I decided to launch it on my birthday. I think it was my 18th birthday at the time.
Wow.
Or 17th, 18th, I think. And so with launching the website, I have to will back a little bit. So, but a few months before that, I happened to stumble on a video that probably changes my life from that point, because randomly I went on Facebook. At the time, Facebook was dead to me, even then. Unfortunately, sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, but still not a fan. I like Instagram, though. Now the algorithms are messing up. I don't even like you either. But yeah, I happened to randomly go on Facebook this day. I don't know what led me there. God, at this point, it's quite clear. And I stumbled upon a video by a guy called Jay Monty. He's from America. He's a rapper, Christian rapper. Now, this was the first time I'd seen such. And again, like I've always been a church boy and whatnot. So I checked this video now, and properly done, like dope bars, everything. It's called 100 Bars Part 3. It's quite a long song, it's like 5-6 minutes, but artistically was just so dope, and like the way the video was done as well. And he was calling out like rappers in the world and stuff like that, but the way it's done is just dope. And from that point, I was like, oh my days, what is this? And then it just opened me up to a whole new world, because of my passion for music, and just the way I consume music and had that passion to find music and stuff like that, that just led me down a rabbit hole. That's where I started to find all the, particularly in the US, American rappers, Andy, Cray, John Gibbs, all these guys. And just developed a love for it. So a few months into it, as I'm about to launch the blog page, I add a radio feature as I'm about to launch the website on my birthday. And why did I do that? While I was back home in Nigeria, maybe like a year before, one of my best friends, I remember having a conversation with him as we were about to leave and graduate from secondary school. and he was like probably my best friend at the time, and he was the head boy, really smart guy, whatever. And we had a conversation. I was just asking him like, what do you want to do, like when we're out here, and in future. And best believe I thought this guy would be like, yo, yeah, I want to be, bro, I could be the president, or I could
had all the plans in the
you know
box.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I could flip in, I don't know, again, be an astronaut. Like, he's a smart guy. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
alright,
yeah.
cool. Then he says, I want to do like radio presenting and stuff. And I said, I looked at him, I'm like, oh, you, what? Radio presenting? I'm like, whoa, alright. But kind of ate it. I was like, alright, cool, bet. But it was a conversation in passing, but it stuck with me.
Yeah.
So by the time I came back down, and I was looking to launch my blog page, I had him in mind because I was like, oh, you know what? I started to do some research and I realized, okay, there's something called online radio. I can add the feature to the website. So I did that. Used a platform called Mixlr at the time. Added it onto the website, and my intention was for him to like host shows on there. So I got myself like a audio mixer, a mic with my laptop, whatever. But the issue was he lived all the way in Wembley. I live on the far side of the east. So there was no way it was going to be feasible for him to, because he also moved back down to the UK.
Yeah.
So there was no way that was ever going to be possible or feasible. So long story short, on my birthday when I launched the blog site, I went on air for the first time. And from that point, I just fell in love with podcasting and doing radio. And yeah, I've continued it for a little while. When I first originally started, I was doing mainstream hip hop and just music in general, but with like Christian, because again, I recently found Christian hip hop, so I'll kind of mix and blend and add. But majority, I guess at the time, was still mainstream because that was the most of what I knew.
Yeah.
Then a month and a bit after, I just got I remember at the time, now it's, especially in retrospect, it's much clearer about God just asking me to just like to choose between the two. Choose between the two, but either or he's gonna bless.
Wow.
But I just need to decide.
So knowing that he's going to bless either side, what made you go with kind of CHH essentially? That is Christian hip hop, by the way, just in case people don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't even tell you what made me kind of decide. I think now it's a bit clear. Like I understand my calling and purpose a bit more. And again, I attribute it to just my faith even then, and like just even at my early stages, just because I always had some form of relationship with Christ. So it kind of just made sense. But also I started to recognize even at the time that I just started to have a distaste for hip hop culture.
Oh wow, okay.
Actually, so yeah, that's another thing. I just felt there's certain things that were just hypocritical. Like I didn't like the fact that 1 minute, and at that time specifically was around the time when the Black Lives Matter movement really started to kick off. Kendrick Lamar, I think, dropped To Pimp a Butterfly at the time. So I was really into like the conscious rap as well.
Yeah.
I just didn't like how like 1 minute we're fighting for justice over lives, and then the next minute I pop in my headphones and every other rapper is talking about how they're killing someone. You know what I mean? Like it didn't gel with me as much. And I think when you're younger, you know, it's all hype and stuff like that, and it's like, ugh. But when I started to really just deep certain things, I was just like, this doesn't sit well with me.
Question, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like part of the reason why you were able to kind of consciously, not the pick between the two, but in terms of like when you were younger, you could listen to the music and be like, oh yeah. But when you kind of moved out of kind of Lagos from around people and you kind of go back into your own space, you actually have more time to actually take in what music you listen to.
Yeah,
Do you reckon that could be a...
Yeah. I think it's just, I've always been someone that thinks.
Okay.
So also I just think, and I did have a lot of time when I came back here actually, because again, so I'm also an only child, so I get to spend a lot of time with myself. So I've always kind of thought in that direction anyways. Like I've always been quite, I don't want to use the word conscious, but yeah, conscious. Like to some degree. And again, I think faith has also helped with that. So I've always known what's right and what's wrong. So yeah, there were just certain things that just didn't align with with me. But
I hear what you're saying. So going back, because you kind of talked about me being an only child, do you feel like during your childhood growing up, you missed out on anything? Or did you feel like your family, and essentially your mom, kind of made sure that you didn't feel that any gaps in your life?
Yeah, my mom done an excellent job in her capacity, man. She's impeccable, man. Because I didn't feel. Of course, there were moments where I felt like I remember I used to have a whole bunch of teddy bears because I wanted siblings, so I just had teddy bears as my go-to. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of what could be provided for, my mom done a great job. She was very sacrificial in nature. She put a lot of things on hold for herself to see me grow and develop. And I've always been around a lot of people as well. But yeah, I do feel like there was the thing that was missing most, I guess, in my early childhood was male presence. Didn't really have a lot of male presence growing up.
Is that even the same going back when you went back to Nigeria as well?
Yeah. So
wow.
yeah, so from the age of 0 till like maybe 14,
Oh wow.
15, when I went into boarding school, I never really had like, especially older men around. Even today, there's certain misbalance that I've been able to identify and see that okay, this is probably attached, or not attached, but
It's probably a product of
of that.
You've talked about it like previously. I've watched you do when IG Lives was a thing.
Yeah.
In terms of about IGTV, and you did like this IG Live, and you're talking about, or it might have been on your story, and you're talking about like the anger that you felt in terms of like the absence of your dad or absence of a father. How did you kind of navigate that, especially, or when did you kind of really feel that gap where that anger started to take hold and take place?
Yeah.
And how did you navigate that as you started to get older?
At some point at uni,
Okay.
because I just started to feel inadequate in certain areas that made me just think, is it because of that gap that I don't have certain, I guess, characteristics or certain
Traits.
you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's certain traits that in my mind just attributed to manly traits that I just felt like I hadn't developed yet. So that's probably been where some of that frustration kind of came from. I don't really feel like it's attributed to my dad specifically.
Okay.
It's just that void that upon reflection just kind of felt like, okay, this is where I've kind of missed out on. And I've had moments growing up as well where it's like I knew that like there's certain things like guys were into, like especially in Nigeria, like football.
Yeah.
That I just didn't pick up on.
Yeah.
You know, I eventually became a fan of basketball. But that's kind of hard to follow through, flipping time differences. But right now in terms of sports, I'm a boxing fan.
Yeah.
But there's just certain things I just felt a bit handicapped upon. I grew up I still am, but like I'm quite empathetic, and I was very much more emotional as well. When I was quite young, and in secondary school, that didn't help at certain points. But yeah, I don't know. I think just working through figuring out what it is to be a man, especially when you haven't had representation or someone kind of like, be there showing you what it is. You kind of just have to go about life and figure it out and whatnot. Yeah.
So what does that make you want to do for when you get older and, potentially have a family and those types of things? What are the things that you want to put in place, knowing what you've experienced?
Yeah. There's a few things that really stand out to me. I want to be secure. I want to be secure enough for a family, where whether it be my wife or my kids, they know that I'm a solid foundation that they can rely on. I think reliability. I want to be there. I want to be present. It's important that the family dynamic between it's important that there's a husband and a wife in a home. I'm very much a fan. Beyond a fan, I think it's very much key to society at large, but also within the home that a man and woman raise kids. It's just, I can't emphasize it enough. And whatever it is that needs to be done to do that, I just pray that God gives me the ability to do so. Because at the same time, I understand that, especially just growing up, you recognize that life isn't easy, man. So certain times when I do see broken homes and things like that, there's a part of me that sympathizes with people, even the people who leave, just because you recognize that life is hard and difficult. But I just want to be that person that no matter what, that commitment that I've made to, again, my wife and my kids, I'm able to stand on that. But yeah, at this point, I recognize that it's not gonna be a thing that I can just. It's easier said than done. I need to involve God in that process, because it's clear to see that it's not easy. Again, I don't know what the statistics is, but everywhere I look now, it's everyone's coming from a broken home. So it shows that this isn't a easy feat that one can do alone. So yeah, I'm trying to learn, even in my singleness, even how I maneuver with women today. I wouldn't want to find myself where I have a kid out of wedlock, for example, because that's how I came about. But it's I wouldn't want to put my kid through that. You know what I mean? And I'm just understanding the responsibility more and more as I grow along. So,
how does God help you, or your relationship with God help you to not only navigate the feelings that you've had in the past, but also navigate that relationship with God the Father? How does He help you in that?
Jesus was probably the one I could relate to the most for such a long time, just because I'm able to relate with his humanity. Abba, on the other hand, there's been times where it's kind of been hard. And I don't even know if it's because of the father element. It's just when I read scripture with Jesus, it was just okay, clear. It's okay, you could see he walked the earth. You see, you could follow.
That human aspect.
Which I think is a key element to God, and I think it's actually quite beautiful, because in times where I'm struggling to understand the Holy Spirit and I'm struggling to understand Abba, Jesus always is that anchor in that formula to kind of just bring me back to recognizing that, you know what, even when I don't understand God in this moment, and sometimes I'm throwing up my fist because maybe I'm suffering or going through pain or whatever, I kind of get humbled, because I'm wait, hold up. He actually came down, to live a life, and he felt every emotion that I'm feeling through Christ. So it's okay, flip, hold up. But anyways, in terms of how I relate to God as a fatherhead, I don't know. I think I try. I think we're in a good place. I have a better understanding. Currently, where I'm at, I'm having to learn to trust him, and I'm still trying to figure out what that means. Because there's times where I feel like I am, or I have, but when I peel back some of the layers, it's one thing I've been struggling with lately, not even just lately, for a while, and I'm having to overcome, is just fear. Fear of various things, but feeling inadequate in certain areas. And it's just going through the process of just revealing that, how much trust do I have in you? You said, you've promised all these things, you've let me know where you're at. But it's there's certain times where I'm like, why am I scared to meet you where you're at? So I don't know. I need to go back to the drawing board and still figure out where we're at and how I can fully throw my trust in there. But again, it's a working relationship. So.
Let's go off the back of that then. So you talked about, needing to trust God more. How do you then deal with all the things he's asking of you? Because it's a heavy weight that you carry as not just a person who's trying to bring people together, but as a leader of some of these things. You talked about the CHH Collective, which you can tell us about a little bit in a minute. And, we haven't even talked about House of Saint or Saint London Radio and Ecclesia as well, in terms of the part, the what you're trying to do there. Those are heavyweights of someone at your age trying to bring people together as well as lead. So in the fact that you are struggling with this trust element of God, how do you then trust him to the point that he's able to lead you in what he's given for you to do?
Again, I'm working through it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to sit here and say like, oh, I've got it figured out, or I'm in the best place to, let's say you're asking me to give advice because I'm literally in the middle of it, figuring it out. I thought the journey would be much easier. I thought it would just be a straight path, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just A to B, and the way I've processed for a long time as well is like, I kind of see things in like, I would see things in like, again, like A to B, like it's just like, okay, and removing some of the steps or I think that journey, just seeing all the extra steps that comes with it is crippling, because the way I'm a visionary, so I see the big picture, but then when you now start having to break things down and whatnot, that's been a struggle, and like certain, I don't know if it's the way my mind works, but like just, I don't know, structuring, I don't know, to answer the question anyways, I think, because it's something I'm recognizing as well that, maybe also the reason why there's a bit of struggle, is because I've weighted myself. There's a form of idolatry of self, in the sense where because I've been given the call. I think I've put too much pressure to think that I'm the one that's gonna do what's meant to be done, which I understand that's a half truth in it, because obviously I'm co-laboring with God, like it's both. But I think, because actually let me go around this route. Okay. So one thing I've struggled with is, of late especially, is like low self-esteem, and I've come to find that I know, because naturally I'm confident, you know what I mean, but I've been struggling with a lot of low self-esteem, and I think it's weird, because I've come to recognize that it's a form of pride in it of itself, and it's warped, because, and I think life is just full of paradoxes. That's one thing I've come to realize, like life is just a whole bunch of paradoxes, but it's like I've run away from, like, I'm very much, I don't, like, in terms of like pride in my mind is like, oh, like you're boisterous and like you're like, I'm that guy, I'm like, ooh. And I've never been that. I've always shied away from that. I'm just
humble
with it. But what I then recognize on the flip side is that even when you take it too extreme and you kind of lessen yourself, you're also being prideful, because when it's time to do what God has given you to do, you kind of start to, when you get in your own way, you start self-sabotaging. But it's like you start to look at yourself as, you forget that God is in the equation, that he's the one that's, you know what I mean? And you start to put yourself in that position, and it's again a form of pride. Like you feel like you've just weighted yourself too highly to the point where you don't let God carry the burden for you. Like you feel like, you're the one that's gonna do it all. Like I'm the one that's gonna do this vision and build this vision out. When it's really God, he's just using, he's co-working with you. So, I don't know. I was probably rambling on, but
No?
yeah, that's some of the yeah. Currently where I'm at, if I'm being quite frank.
Nah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How do other people and your friends and people you consider family then help you through times like this then? Or how do you allow them to help you
Fair.
through times with this? Because that's probably the real question.
Yeah.
Because they probably could help you more than they are at the
Yeah.
moment if you allow them to.
Yeah.
So how are you allowing them to help you at this time?
I've recognized as well, I don't know if I know how to seek help properly. I do have a lot of people that I'm accessible to, but sometimes I just don't know how do you help. So I don't know. Again, still working it out. I think I can do a better job in being proactive and engaging people to help me. Because people are always reaching out their hands. Like one thing I'm blessed with is people, community, a human resource. But I think I've spent a lot of time in my own head and in my own world, just trying to figure it out in one's capacity. But also with God, I think it's been a frustrating journey just because I felt like I've involved God the whole way through. But I'm having to learn that. And what I recognize is that even with that, like I'm currently in this space where I'm recognizing that, oh flip, even my faith has been tainted by fear.
Wow.
And it's a weird concept, again paradoxical, but I found that okay, cause like I recently I went on a fast, and even after that fast, when I was like okay, just give it up to God, I could still see the trait of running back to like just holding on to fear. So it made me recognize that right, like even in my time of faith, I'm still not free from this thing. So yeah, I don't know. With people, I open up to those that I feel comfortable with. So I'm constantly sharing, constantly speaking. I've just been in my own way a lot. So even sometimes I don't help myself. And sometimes because I'm figuring it out, I'm like, I feel like I don't want you to even bother just because I don't feel like I'm even helping myself as much. So I don't know, again, there's a whole... This is me processing, like I'm in the seat process. So even as you're speaking and asking me questions, it's just like I'm having to, like I'm in the mess right now. But I know that I'm hoping that by the time this probably even airs and drops at some point, I'll be able to look back at this and kind of just go, it's much clearer now, and like I'm in a progressive space. But
Yeah, man.
yeah.
That's good, man. It's good because like the fact that you're processing shows that these questions are like tapping into something in you, where it's not like you can't just prepare these answers. Do you know what I mean? You've got to like tap into yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna pivot a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that.
Talk to us about the CHH Collective. Talk to us about Saint Radio London.
Yeah.
And talk to us about Ecclesia. What are those things?
Yeah.
What are those kind of events, collectives, groups?
Yeah.
What are they? And where do you kind of envision the whole scene in terms of what you're trying to do with that kind of in the future? And where do you kind of see it going?
Exciting stuff. So the CHH Collective, let's start off there. So this started about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was birthed out of, so what is it? And let's start off with that. So it's a community of Christian creatives within the music industry. So it houses artists, to DJs, to A&Rs, to bloggers, to playlisters, just basically the whole industry. But particularly for a niche of gospel artists, but like gospel, but I'm starting to tag it now as new gospel. Not NEW, but NU gospel.
With you.
And that basically, in essentially, is just because the issue I find with the tag gospel music is that when you say gospel music, automatically what comes to mind? It comes to
Kurt Franklin, Fred Hammond.
it comes to choirs, keys, singers, etc., etc. But with new gospel, it's meant to just categorize the new soundscapes that are coming up. So like from the rap to the R&B to the Afro beats, just the new sounds. And it's grown. Currently almost about 300 people, all on a WhatsApp space, which is kind of crazy when I think about it, because numbers involved. But it's beautiful to see because you've got the likes of people who are at the height of their game to people who are just coming in on the same space, sharing resources together, being in community together, supporting one another. And up until recently, I really just understood the power that is that group. Because it started off just as me, like, again, because I've been in the space for a while. When I was doing radio, essentially what happened was my focus was on American music for two reasons. Because growing up in Nigeria, the UK culture didn't really
Transition over there,
over there, so it was always American stuff. Even if you hear me talk, you kind of hear like an American twang.
Little twang in there.
Yeah. I'm a faker. It's cool. It's right. But yeah. So growing up, I was just on American stuff. So when I came back down and I was doing radio, I was very much focused on Christian hip hop in America. So I made a number of connections. I used to do like interviews and on my podcast. Interviewing American artists, but yeah, while I was down here, there just wasn't much going on in the UK. Like it was so dry and quiet for such a long time. There were only a few people that I knew of, and then I started to recognize, okay, there was a point in time where there was things happening, but there just seemed to be like a dry spell for a little while. But long story short, I did a episode. This was in 2019. On my radio show, a Christmas special, and I had like, how many artists? 19 artists I interviewed on one episode.
Wow.
My journey within the Christian hip hop world at that time was very lonely. I was like the only one that I knew that was a fan, and I was trying to put everyone on. Yeah, whatever. So through uni and stuff like that. So it was lonely, but not in a bad sense. Like I didn't care, but it was just like it was lonely. Like I didn't see that many people that were into it or even knew about it. But then in 2019 I just see a surge, and I think shouts to Dia Day. She put on an event called Safe Sounds, and I think that's where I kind of clocked just a lot more people stemming up. So my thing was just to gather everyone. A few months shortly, I started a WhatsApp group. I connected with a lot of them, and then started a WhatsApp group. Started off, I guess, small, and now again it's expanded to about 300 people in the space of like 2.5 years, and it's just incredible to see, because like what I didn't want at the time was I didn't want people to feel like how I felt, where it's like this thing just feels isolated. And secondly, I didn't want the scene to reflect the church in the sense where I feel like the church can be divided with
quite
like cliquey or like with denominations, basically like, oh, you know, I'm from this church and I'm from this church, or I'm from South and I'm from East and this and third, and it's like by the time we start to rise, everyone's just rising on their own, and then
you can only rise so far.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You can't really, you know, can rise so far, and then so it was my heart to just get us all in together, get to know one another, and just build together and support one another. So that was kind of the heart behind, and it still is. But yeah.
So in the same rate, so is Ecclesia kind of like you use the CHH Collective to kind of feed into?
Yeah, so Ecclesia, that started off this year, launched it around my birthday. So if you notice, so I always launch something on my birthday.
So what's coming up this birthday?
This birthday,
is it still in the works?
Still in the works.
All right, great.
Still in the
Let's go back to Ecclesia.
But yeah, it's a marketing strategy. Even at the time when I first did it for Prosonics, that was my thought behind it, because I was like, let me launch it on my birthday, so when people are hitting me up saying happy birthday, I can send them and to my blog at the time. But yeah, every year since, I kind of just launched something. But yeah, this year was Ecclesia. We've had 2 events there. It was meant to have a third, but it got cancelled due to train strikes. But yeah, it's an events company for urban Christian. It's an urban events Christian company, and yeah, it's kind of a channel for artists to get seen and have a place to perform, but also for people to be able to engage with people, the artists in person.
Yeah.
And things are changing now, but because like people are starting to catch on to the music.
Yeah.
For such a long time, I just felt like the church was so like they had like even Christians didn't know like Christian rap or Christian R&B or Christian Afrobeats existed, and it's kind of like what. Now I think like even with, like TikTok and stuff like that, people are starting to really catch on, and now they're making their own playlists and stuff. But at the time, like I felt the need to put it in people's faces. So yeah, that's basically what ecclesia is. And ecclesia stands for church, is a Greek word, but also means to call out. So yeah, and that's basically in essence what we're doing. We're calling people out to our events. Then we're also the church. So.
Where do you see the scene kind of going in the future? What would you ideally want it to look like?
You know what? I want us to go over and beyond. I believe that we can be like, you know how we're like a niche? Like we can be it. Like we don't have to be a niche. Like we can be the go-to. Like I'm sure people are even tired of like, particularly with mainstream music, like just the same old narratives and
Same
old,
17 artists doing the
like,
same sound.
you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I want us to get to a point where we have our own infrastructures. Really, like the art is going to be the art. I think there's two folds to it. I think there's the art side, and I'll touch on that. But I think primarily I want there to be a lot more infrastructure. Like I want us to be able to have our own stations, our own labels, our own events companies, our own all these things, because there needs to be an economy that can sustain what's going on. You're doing it. Shouts to the likes of A Step Forward. Shouts to the likes of CHH podcast. Like there's people that are coming up and doing stuff. But yeah, I want to see a lot more in terms of infrastructure, and I believe we will get there again with God's backing. We definitely will. For artists, creatively, would love us to expand more creatively, do more from shows to the music itself, and I want to get to a point where we don't just adapt genres like hip hop and R&B, but start to formulate new sounds and new, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, like, I want the church to start a whole I'm a piano trend. Not specifically I'm a piano, but like
that kind of thing.
Something where like it stemmed particularly from the church, a whole new soundscape, and everyone has to refer to us to kind of get it. But yeah, like I believe we can do that for sure. I think God is the ultimate creator. You know, we're all creatives, but God is the creator, and I feel like we have the direct access to that source. So we can 100% do anything really. I want to see us as the O2 scene.
I hear you.
O2 Arena, Wembley Arena. Why not?
I like that.
Yeah.
My last question for you today, Manny.
Okay.
And I appreciate your time, appreciate your heart, appreciate your truth. That's very important. I appreciate that. And I feel like it's going to help a lot of people who are experiencing the same things that you're going through at the moment, and people seeing you for who you are and then seeing that, okay, you are still dealing with certain things and trying to grow through certain things. I think that's amazing. And that only comes from you sharing your truth. So I appreciate that, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. My last question for you, with where you're at in life right now, what advice or encouragement would you give to yourself?
Just love yourself. Love yourself and trust in God, but trust in yourself as well. I think the number one thing that's plagued me is self-doubt. And I've let it cloud my judgment and my view on myself. And again, like just fear of being inadequate and stuff like that. But they're all lies ultimately, because if God, which I know for a fact, has called me, then is God stupid? No, is God dumb enough to entrust me with such a mandate? And even beyond what he wants me to do, just the fact that he loves me should be more than enough for me to love myself. And the reason why I say that is because, again, I'm very reflective. been spending time journaling, and again having conversations. And there was a conversation I had like recently, over the past month or so. And yeah, and the question came up, and I kind of just recognized that, right, like I struggle to answer that. Like, do I love me? Yeah, I think I need to develop that self-love and self-belief to get to where I know that God has prepared me for. So yeah, I'll say just love yourself, like truly. Yeah.
Manny, appreciate you.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate you
you.
very much, man.
It's been Manny Ade, it's been Conversation with H. This has been a great conversation. Make sure you check out more content coming for you very, very soon. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all of them things.
Come on now.
We'll have much more coming for you very soon.
We out.